Welcome to the Block PC. I am Dallas. It's my wonderful co-host Robin. We are here with another episode.
Yes.
So excited.
So excited.
This week's topic is going to be accepting change.
Accepting change.
Woo, that's a hard one.
Gotta get ready. Look, get ready for this.
Get comfortable for this.
Yeah. I really wanted to talk about accepting change because I feel like it's something that happens to all of us.
Right.
And where it is something that happens to all of us, it may not be always the easiest thing to navigate through life. Change is just constant, ongoing. Like you can't control when it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So yeah, I really want to dive into that today.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
I guess I want to start by saying, or asking rather, do you feel like change is easy?
Long answer, no.
Yeah.
Definitely not. I feel like anything changes 100% of the things you don't know, right? Like you're unfamiliar with it. It's something new. Like you don't know what it is. And that's what change, is all about. So I think that's always scary. I think that makes it hard because it's like walking into a dark room and just trusting that everything is supposed to work out. You know what I'm saying? And that's just scary. But I think that it's worth it every time.
I will say, like, I do feel like change is necessary. And I feel like it has to happen in life because that's how you, in my opinion, personally, that's how you get to the next step.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to navigate through because with that change, you might have some uncomfortable experiences or you may not know what's going to happen. I think the scariest part about change is not knowing what's on the other side of that change that's to come. So.
Yeah. With change, like, some of it though is good. Like some of it, I feel like there are times in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the change and I'm ready. And that's something where like you have to go out and actively make something happen. And then there are other times when it's like, boom, something just happened in your life. And now you have to adjust based on, what's going down. Yeah. Like I feel like when I moved to California, that was a change I was wanting to do. Yeah. And then when I moved back to Colorado to help with my mom, that was a change that was forced upon me. Yeah. Which
it's
is like,
different when when it's something that you want to happen. Like the change, when the change is something that you want, I feel like it's an easier process. But what about the times when you don't want that change to happen? And like, like how you feel like, man, like, or you may be on the fence about it. Like, yeah, I want this to change, but I don't really know how I'm gonna change it. I don't really know how I'm gonna do it. Like, I feel like those are the moments that are just like, really like, they either make or break you basically because, like, you could either choose to stay the same and change nothing, or you can either, weigh out your options and see like what else out there is better for you. And I'm not saying that that's easy. It's really hard at some points, but it's just like, for me, it all boils down to like, how bad do you want whatever you're trying to get that's on the other side, or like, how bad do you want it?
I think I think it's hard because of just the unfamiliarity with it, the uncertainty of it. I think it's worth it, but I think like change is human nature, right? So it's like if you choose not to change, the world is still going to, everything around you is still going to change.
We still going to keep going. We still going to keep rocking.
And it's like you can either get left behind or you can kind of go with the flow, kind of push where everyone else is going, and that's however that looks in your life. But I think that we have to change. Yeah.
I feel like people always, I don't want to say people always tell me, but I listen to this one quote so much, and it's like, you don't want to be comfortable, because when you're comfortable, then when you're comfortable, it's just like nothing is really changing around you, and you already kind of know what to expect. You already kind of know what's going to happen, and so that can kind of be a dangerous place to be in because it's just like, everything is going to happen. Are you really growing? Are you really elevating? Are you really prospering in that, like, of just knowing what's going to happen on your everyday routine, I feel like that's scary for me because I don't want to always know like, okay, I'm going to wake up, go do this, and then I'm going to go work this job, and then the day's going to be over, then I'm going to go do it all over again tomorrow. Am I improving in any way? Am I growing in any way? And, is this going to be something that's beneficial for me in the long run, And so that's why I feel like I have to accept changes, like.
I feel like from what I've seen, it just in the world, you see what happens when people get into these routines and they just, life gets so mundane and boring, and it's like even that has a way of like dragging you down, and it's like, oh, I should have, could have, would have been, all the time, opposed to like being like, no, I'm gonna do something. I want to go out and try something new and be uncomfortable with this, because like that's where we get all the experiences in life, where we have things to talk about, where we learn valuable lessons. Like, you have to step into that unknown space.
Do you like think about the times in life where you were uncomfortable with something, or you didn't really know how you were going to navigate through it, but then coming out on the other side of that, like, no matter how uncomfortable you were, like, you still completed that mission, or you still completed whatever it is you were trying to complete, like, no matter how uncomfortable it was. And it feels good to complete things. You like, man, I was nervous. You know, I didn't really want to do that. I didn't really want to go through with that. But when I did, I felt so much better. Like, you know, it brought the beast out of me. It brought the...
Like, but I agree, like, wholeheartedly. Because for me, like, the biggest change I think I went through was, like, moving. Like, when I turned 18, I moved to California. Like, no looking back. And I feel like it was a struggle a lot of the time, like trying to just figure out, because I had like one cousin out there. So it was really just me. And so it's like trying to navigate, like, I'm here alone. Like, I got to get used to this, got to get used to working and paying bills and ABCFG. But like, California was one of the best times of my entire life.
Because you got to learn yourself.
You know what I'm saying?
Changes, going through the motions. Yeah,
exactly.
That's what's up. I would say this experience moving to Colorado did that for me. And I always talk about that because we talked about a lot, like, through this podcast and stuff, like understanding yourself, like what that process is like. And I had to adapt to a lot of things of like, my mom moved me around a lot when I was young and stuff like that. But really, I understand you, because it's just like being out by yourself and not really knowing how you're going to do this or how you're going to do that, or if this job is coming, or just fending for yourself. That's like living in survival mode, you know, like, and you got to be able and really ready to just accept any change that's coming your way. And I feel like that's deep. Like, that's important. Like, you got to be ready for anything, in my opinion. I don't ever want to not be ready.
I feel like though it's also set me up. Like, you know, like being in survival mode, I don't always want to be in survival mode. But that set me up for how I live now, and knowing what I do like, what I don't like. I get to expedite the process on a lot of things in my life, because I'm like, well, you know, that person's saying this about me. Well, actually, old me would have cared. New me forgot who was even talking about.
Because you've changed, you've grown,
like, you know what I'm saying? I went through that things to realize this is not important to me. People saying what they want to say is not important to me. So now it doesn't even affect me. You know, but I had to go through those motions of being uncomfortable, feeling bad when people were saying A, B, and C. You know, and now you come out on the other side stronger. Every time.
It's all about being stronger. You know, knowing yourself, trusting yourself. I feel like having faith is important too. Because faith takes you a long way. I feel like change for me, my mom, I want to say this, my mom moved me around so much when I was younger. Like, we never stayed in one area. Like, I was constantly moving as a kid. And so when it comes to change, I feel like it's easier for me to adapt, because my mom taught me that at a young age, like, please don't get too comfortable over here, because, you know, you might be leaving and going somewhere else, you know, like, and where that was not always the easiest, it's also taught me how to, you know, just keep going and keep moving and not stay stuck in the same stagnant position and accept it, whatever it is. Like, and I don't want to think about what negative can come from, you know, that change. Like, when I think of change, I think of good. You know, I think something good is going to come from that change, not just, oh, dang, it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong. Like, I think people should think about what good is going to come from the changes that they make, or, you know, decisions that they make. So
I feel like you said something really good, that trusting yourself is a very big factor in that, because the fear of failure and the fear of rejection, the fear of doing the wrong, choosing the wrong something, I feel like is what leads people to not want to change. Because it's like, well, what if I change? And you're only harping on all that could go wrong. And it's like, well,
it's so easy to do that, though.
You know what I'm saying? But if you look at it on such like a very like basic level, like the trees, right? They change 4 times a year. And it's the same cycle, but it continues. And it's like each time it's a different type of beauty, though. Like, the snow on the trees looks nice. The orange and yellow leaves look nice in the summertime when it's nice and green. Like, but it constantly changes. And like, what would happen if the tree just always stayed dead or something?
Those are things we take for granted, though. And I realize that, you know, like, those are things, the smallest things we take for granted. Like, the colors of the trees and stuff like that. Like, people don't think about that stuff. Like, those things are constantly changing all the time without any like, oh, okay, now it's your time, I guess. Yeah, the seasons change, but they're going to change regardless. Like, they're not going to stop and wait, saying? You know, maybe I should not change that color because it's not the right temperature. Like, they're still going to...
I'm not really feeling because I'm not really
feeling like changing.
What if I don't look good in red? Oh, come on.
Do you have any like stories where you feel like you really had to like just accept that change and like trust the process with it, or for whatever that you know?
Yeah. I think moving back to Colorado, like it happened kind of abruptly for me, and I feel like for a while there I was just kind of like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on? Like, this is getting like, I'm just wanting to do less and less all the time. And I was like, okay, no. Like, something's got to shake. Like, you can't sit in this forever, because like, look at how you feel when you're sitting in this, and I don't want to keep feeling this down all the time. So it was like, okay, we start looking for jobs. We start like getting outside. We got to start having fun. Like, remembering that like those little moments are what make everything better. Yeah,
that's what's up.
What about you?
Moving back to Colorado. For me, I want to say relationships have taught me a lot. I don't really like to talk about relationships, but I feel like throughout the relationships that I've been in, they've taught me like to accept change. Yeah. When you go through breakups, when you go through like friendships, even too, like people leave. You know, we've had a lot of that recently. You know, people taking different courses in life, moving different places, doing different things. And I am a person that like, when I love that person, I love them with my whole heart. You know that, like, I'll do anything for that person. So when you have to accept your friends going here, or you have to accept relationships not working over here, like, I think those are the things that like the hardest change. Yeah. And I've gone through that a lot, to where I've just kind of had to just accept it and be like, all right, well, it's not goodbye. Right. But, you know, and some of them are goodbyes. I can't even, like, some of them are goodbyes, but the change is necessary in all those aspects. So for me, relationships,
I think it's also important to notice that like change out of good things happen too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it might be something like you really like, and you're really loving, but like that also might need change.
Might not be good for you.
Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? At the same time. And so I feel like it's important to note that change comes from like wanting to change for the better. Yeah. And sometimes it's like a certain thing has run its course. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And because it was good, people try and hold on to it. So they have at least one good thing, but it's like, you got to also sometimes let that kind of stuff go too. Yeah. So you make more. I was watching this pastor talk about this actually, and he was catching a bunch of like basketballs, soccer balls, workout balls, and he was like, this is a blessing, and this is a blessing, and this is a blessing. And then he was holding all of these, and he was like, well, if I don't let these go, I don't have any more hands to catch the new blessings. Yeah. You know? And so I think it's important that change is always happening for every aspect of your life.
I really try like to not reminisce on the past and like think about the old, like, oh, I used to have this, or I used to have that, because I want to bring in all the stuff that I'm supposed to have. But how can I do that? Like you said, if I'm holding on to every, all this over here, all this over there, like, no, I have to let all that stuff go so I can receive my new blessing, so we can move forward. So
exactly.
Yeah. I ask you a question.
I'm ready.
I ask you a question. I want to ask you, what advice would you give someone who just absolutely just hates change?
That's hard. I think that the hate and the fear of change comes from somewhere. Yeah. Right? Like, it's like I said, the fear of maybe you don't want to make the wrong choices or something like that. And I think that's something you got to look into. I don't think people just inherently hate change. Yeah. I think it's like, oh, you're scared that life will get worse than what it is. And if you're like, you're sad right now, you don't want to think about getting even sadder. Yeah. Or you might try something and then it fails, and you put all this hope and energy and life into it, and then it doesn't work out. And that's a scary feeling too. It is. I feel like all that though is catalyst to who you're supposed to become. Mm-hmm. And it's stuff like that you have to go through to be the person you're supposed to be. Yeah. And that's scary, but I think it's necessary. So that's what I would tell them.
It's scary, but it's necessary. I would say, for anyone who I feel like just hated change or they were struggling with it, is that, once again, everybody's journey is different. Everybody's process is different. I feel like I would tell that person to like have faith, even when it's hard, even if you don't know what's on the other end, even if you don't know what's coming up. I feel like faith is so important, and like your journey and where you're trying to go, like focus on you, do you, and just embrace whatever's coming your way, whether it be like bad, good. I watched our episode before this, and you were talking about like how we talked about, oh, it's 3 things bad that happen, and then you get something good. So like just embrace either side of it, and understand that something better is coming for you, whether you can see it or not. Like, I'm already telling you something better is coming for you. So yeah,
I like that.
What is the biggest change that you feel like this world could use, or you feel like this world needs right now, like 2024?
That's a big question. The biggest change that I would say the world needs, and I feel like I hear it a lot, but I don't see it a lot, is I feel like the world definitely needs more empathy. More like let's put someone else first. Yeah. Or let's think about the people around me a little bit. Yeah. Because I know like a lot of times it's like you got to put yourself first. You got to work, to build yourself up to make the world better as a whole. Yeah. But like in those little in between moments, like I don't see why people can't, do things with other people in mind, opposed to always just yourself.
Yeah. Empathy is important. Like, I definitely think this world needs more empathy, because I feel like we're so like focused on like what it takes for us to get to the next step that it's the world kind of makes it hard to think about what the next person might need. But if we could be more empathetic, I feel like that would be,
I feel like it's also like it's lonely at the top. Yeah. It's like you do all this stuff to be amazing and great, but what does it all mean if you're just there alone by yourself? Like, I just feel like in my personal life, community and friends and just being with the people you like to be around makes every experience way more fun than just doing it by yourself.
Doing it all by yourself. Me too. I have to agree with that. I definitely think we could all use more empathy, because like you never know what the next person is going through or facing, and you might think you have it harder somewhere, and then you look at the other person like, I actually don't even have it that hard. Like, For me, I think that this world right now, needs, to just have a middle and not always focus on choosing left or right, because I feel like there's so many opinions. Everybody has their own opinion. Everybody's gonna do what they want to do at the end of the day. But I feel like, finding the middle ground, finding the in between. We got voting coming up, and I learned about this in church, so I have to give the credit to my pastor. Like, we got voting coming up, and everybody's gonna be like politics or like Republican or Democrat, but whatever. Like, I feel like this world needs to just stay in the middle and focus on what really matters, like empathy. Yeah, absolutely. Being kind.
Picking the right person opposed to just
don't just
going left, right,
going left. Yeah, like focus on the things that this community actually needs. Like, people need food, people need housing, people need other things. There's so many other bigger things than just I'm gonna go over here because this seems right, or I'm gonna go over here because this seems right. Like, what do we really need in 2024? Yeah, so
I like that. I agree with that. That's a good point.
Working together to create a better community, better environment.
That's all we want, man. We want to bring everybody to the block.
Yeah, Block Podcast. Libby, you have any questions? What you thinking? I know you got some.
Those are good points.
Some spicy tea back there.
How do you navigate change? Because when you say change, it's so vague. Yeah. But how do you decide what needs to change and how much? And
I got you.
Yeah.
I think for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but I think when it's time for me to decide something needs to change and navigate through it, I weigh out my pros and cons, and I do that a lot. And I think that's helped me more to realize, okay, well, why is this important to you? Or why does this matter to you? Why do you feel like this even needs to go? Why do you feel like this even has room to stay? And that's how I kind of navigate through change. What needs to go? What needs to stay? What needs to move here? What needs to move over here? Making space for the things that I feel like are necessary in my life to navigate through that change. What do you want? So that's mine.
I think for me, change is about understanding myself and knowing how I feel in moments, understanding my emotions in terms of oh, I'm really upset right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And I've been upset. Okay, I have to understand that that's a sign, right? Yeah. If I'm you know what I'm saying? And from there, okay, what do I do to start going about that change? And that could be a 5-step plan, a 10-step plan. I don't know, even in moments where I'm I didn't like how I handled that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Okay, well now that's so how did I handle it? Mm-hmm. How would I have liked to handle it if there was a perfect world? And how do I kind of bridge the gap between those 2 points? And that changes in every situation.
You're wish actually there was right. There's this, when I was doing the research and stuff like that about change and stuff like that, there was a list of columns that they said that you should consider when you're thinking about change. It was what, when, why, where, just those questions that you could ask yourself to kind of navigate through that better. So I like that.
Yeah. And it's just taking in, like I said, all the accounts, was I upset that day? And it's like, that's why I reacted like that. Was I perfectly fine and still reacted like that? Yeah. Okay, those are two different routes that I have to navigate now. You know, so it's really like taking a step back and like, you have to be honest with yourself. You gotta be like, you know, that was messed up on my part. And like, I shouldn't have done this. Take a second, you know what I'm saying? Take a beat. I think that's important. That's
what's up. I like that question, Libby. That was a good question. That was good. That's what's up. Well, I think that's all we have for today. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to The Block. We love all the love, support. Once again, I am Robin. It's my wonderful co-host, Dallas. And we always want to give a special shout out to our videographer, editor, producer, Libby in the background, behind the camera. We love you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in to The Block PC.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yes.
Please share the video. Share with everybody.
Yes. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. High five.